Not every battle is fought with swords. Some battles are fought with words, appearances, and deception. After 2 great victories, Israel faces an enemy unlike any before. The Gibeonites don't attack, they pretend. Wearing worn-out clothes and carrying old bread, they convince Joshua they have traveled from a distant land. But there is one crucial mistake. Israel never asks the Lord. Welcome to Joshua chapter 9, a powerful lesson on discernment, wisdom, and the importance of seeking God's guidance. Joshua chapter 9 explained the Gibeonite deception. Now, when all the kings west of the Jordan heard about these things, the kings in the hill country, in the western foothills, and along the entire coast of the Mediterranean Sea as far as Lebanon, the kings of the Hittites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, they came together to wage war against Joshua and Israel. However, when the people of Gibeon heard what Joshua had done to Jericho and Ai, they resorted to a ruse. They went as a delegation whose donkeys were loaded with worn-out sacks and old wineskins, cracked and mended. They put worn and patched sandals on their feet and wore old clothes. All the bread of their food supply was dry and moldy. Then they went to Joshua in the camp at Gilgal and said to him and the Israelites, "We have come from a distant country, make a treaty with us." The Israelites said to the Hivites, "But perhaps you live near us, so how can we make a treaty with you?" "We are your servants," they said to Joshua. But Joshua asked, "Who are you, and where do you come from?" They answered, "Your servants have come from a very distant country because of the fame of the Lord your God. For we have heard reports of him, all that he did in Egypt, and all that he did to the 2 kings of the Amorites, east of the Jordan, Sihon king of Heshbon, and Og king of Bashan, who reigned in Ashtaroth. And our elders and all those living in our country said to us, 'Take provisions for your journey, go and meet them and say to them, "We are your servants. Make a treaty with us." This bread of ours was warm when we packed it at home on the day we left to come to you, but now see how dry and moldy it is. And these wineskins that we filled were new, but see how cracked they are. And our clothes and sandals are worn out by the very long journey." The Israelites sampled their provisions but did not inquire of the Lord. Then Joshua made a treaty of peace with them to let them live, and the leaders of the assembly ratified it by oath. 3 days after they made the treaty with the Gibeonites, the Israelites heard that they were neighbors, living near them. So the Israelites set out and on the 3rd day came to their cities, Gibeon, Kephirah, Beeroth, and Kiriath Jearim. But the Israelites did not attack them, because the leaders of the assembly had sworn an oath to them by the Lord, the God of Israel. The whole assembly grumbled against the leaders, but all the leaders answered, "We have given them our oath by the Lord, the God of Israel, and we cannot touch them now. This is what we will do to them. We will let them live, so that God's wrath will not fall on us for breaking the oath we swore to them." They continued, "Let them live, but let them be woodcutters and water carriers in the service of the whole assembly." So the leader's promise to them was kept. Then Joshua summoned the Gibeonites and said, "Why did you deceive us by saying, 'We live a long way from you,' while actually you live near us? You are now under a curse. You will never be released from service as woodcutters and water carriers for the house of my God." They answered Joshua, "Your servants were clearly told how the Lord your God had commanded his servant Moses to give you the whole land, and to wipe out all its inhabitants from before you. So we feared for our lives because of you, and that is why we did this. We are now in your hands. Do to us whatever seems good and right to you." So Joshua saved them from the Israelites, and they did not kill them. That day he made the Gibeonites woodcutters and water carriers for the assembly, to provide for the needs of the altar of the Lord at the place the Lord would choose. And that is what they are to this day. Lessons and teachings. 1. Always seek the Lord's guidance. They did not ask counsel of the Lord. 9:14 Joshua failed to pray before making a decision. For us, seek God's wisdom before making any decision. 2. Appearances can be deceiving. The Gibeonites looked like they were from a distant land. Things are not always what they seem. For us, discern carefully. Don't be deceived by appearances. 3. An oath is binding. The leaders honored the oath before the Lord. Even a foolish oath must be kept. For us, be careful what you promise. God holds you to it. 4. The consequences of rash decisions can be long-lasting. The Gibeonites became servants for generations. A rash decision had lasting consequences. For us, think before you act. Decisions have consequences. 5. God's grace extends even to deceivers. The Gibeonites were spared and served in the tabernacle. God's mercy is greater than human deception. For us, God's grace is available to all who turn to him. 6. You can't hide from God. The deception was discovered. Truth always comes to light. For us, Live with integrity. Nothing is hidden from God. 7. Joshua 9 highlights humanity's need for divine wisdom. Throughout the Gospels, Jesus repeatedly withdrew to pray before major decisions and continually sought the Father's will. He perfectly demonstrated complete dependence on God. This chapter reminds believers that true wisdom is not found merely in experience or intelligence, but in walking daily with the Lord. Christ invites us to seek Him first, trusting that He will direct our paths. 8. How many decisions do we make simply because something looks right? A job opportunity, a business partnership, a friendship, a relationship, a ministry decision. Joshua chapter 9 teaches us that appearances alone are not enough. We are invited to pause, to pray, to seek God's wisdom before acting. Only prayer can save years of unnecessary difficulty. Seeking God's direction is never wasted time. Points to take home. 1. Gibeon was a powerful city. Gibeon was not a weak village. Scripture describes it as a great city, larger than Ai, with mighty warriors. Its leaders recognized God's hand upon Israel and chose diplomacy instead of battle too. The deception was carefully planned. The worn sandals, patched clothing, cracked wineskins, and moldy bread were all part of an intentional strategy to make the story believable. 3. Israel honored their promise. Even after discovering the deception, Joshua refused to break the covenant because it had been made in the Lord's name. This demonstrates the biblical importance of keeping one's word. 4. Gibeon appears again later. The Gibeonites continue to appear in later books of the Bible, showing that this covenant had lasting significance in Israel's history. Now, finally, the treaty has been signed. The lesson has been learned. Joshua has discovered that not every battle is won with courage alone. Some victories require discernment, but another challenge is already approaching. The kings of southern Canaan are furious. Gibeon has made peace with Israel. Now they prepare for war. The next chapter, Joshua 10, will reveal one of the greatest miracles in all of Scripture: the day the sun stood still. Thank you for journeying through God's Word with us. If this message encouraged you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs hope today. Until next time, may God's Word be the lamp to your feet and the light to your path. This is Whispers of the Word, where every chapter whispers the heart of God. God bless you.